Valentine's Day. The phone screen lit up with a short video from my best friend. I clicked it open, and the background was that popular online celebrity restaurant. Valentine's Day. The phone screen lit up with a short video from my best friend Chloe. I clicked it open, and the background was that popular online celebrity restaurant, The Gilded Spoon. The camera shook and focused on a booth in the corner. My husband, Ethan, was facing away from the camera, gently tidying the hair of the girl across from him. The girl is young and beautiful, with undisguised sweetness on her face. Ethan looked down at her, a familiar, doting smile playing on his lips. The video is very short, only a few seconds, and the music is an ambiguous love song. Chloe only sent 3 words, "Is it him?" I stared at the screen, my blood seemingly freezing instantly. It was him. Even if it was just a profile, even if it was through a screen, I could recognize him. That smile was once the thing I was most obsessed with, but now, it's like a poisoned dagger, piercing my heart with precision. A month ago, I found a strange U-shaped hairpin in the corner of the bathroom shelf. It's not my style, nor is it a color that would work with my hair. My heart skipped a beat at the time, but Ethan came in just then and gently asked me what was wrong. I looked into his frank eyes, suppressed that hint of doubt, and casually threw the hairpin into the trash can. Looking back now, that wasn't doubt, it was a warning. The seed of infidelity had already been quietly planted. I turned off the video, my chest feeling stuffy and flustered. The world was so quiet that only my heavy breathing could be heard. 5 years of marriage. From having nothing to the current affluence and stability, I thought we were a rare model couple in the circle. It turns out that's just what I thought. When Ethan came back in the evening, he carried a faint smell of alcohol and perfume. "This isn't the one I usually use." He hugged me as usual, his tone apologetic. "Sorry, Olivia. There was a last-minute social engagement. I didn't have time to spend the holiday with you." I stiffly leaned into his arms, smelling the unfamiliar scent, and my stomach churned. "It's okay. Work is important." My voice was calm, with no discernible emotion. He seemed a little surprised by my calmness, released me, and carefully examined my face. "What's wrong? Unhappy?" "No, just a little tired." I avoided his gaze. He didn't ask further and turned to enter the bathroom. The sound of water gurgled. I sat on the sofa, unconsciously picking at the tassels of the pillow. I remembered his smile in the video, so gentle, so focused. How long has it been since he smiled at me like that? It seems like a long time, so long that I can't remember the last time. Between us, it seems that only habitual hugs, kisses, and increasingly formulaic care remain. Love is quietly worn away and deteriorates in the daily routine. At night, I lay in bed, pretending to be asleep. Ethan came out of the shower and lay down beside me, bringing with him the dampness. He seemed very tired and soon began to breathe evenly. I quietly opened my eyes and, with the help of the faint moonlight outside the window, traced the contours of his profile, familiar yet strange. I remembered Chloe saying, "Should I take a look at his phone?" Impulsively, I picked up his phone. Fingerprint unlock. Failed. Password unlock. I tried my birthday, his birthday, wedding anniversary. All wrong. He changed the password. My heart sank, and unease quickly wrapped around me like vines, making me breathless. That night, I had a nightmare. I dreamed that Ethan pointed at my face and said with disdain, "Olivia, look at you. You're old, and you have wrinkles." He turned and walked towards that young and beautiful girl, leaving without looking back. I cried and wanted to chase after him, but my body was as if nailed to the spot, unable to move. Despair and panic overwhelmed me. I woke up with a start, my forehead covered in cold sweat. The space beside me was empty. I sat up and heard a faint noise coming from the living room. I walked out and saw Ethan standing in front of the refrigerator drinking water. He heard the noise and turned back. Seeing my pale face, he immediately walked over and subconsciously reached out to feel my forehead. "Did you have a nightmare? Your face looks so bad." His tone was genuinely concerned. The warmth of his palm was transmitted, but I only felt a chill. This hypocritical gentleness torments me even more than the disgust in my dream. I pushed his hand away. "It's okay, go back to sleep." From that day on, I began to observe Ethan's every move discreetly. I noticed that he was coming home later and later, and the scent on him had become strange. It was no longer his usual cologne, but a cheap shampoo scent with a sweet, fruity fragrance. It's exactly the kind that young girls would use. Exactly the kind that young girls would use. He started changing his phone frequently, The old phone was no longer casually placed on the table, but hidden away. Once, while he was taking a shower, I found the old phone deep in the drawer of the study. No password. I opened WhatsApp, and the top contact was marked Sweetie. Clicking into it, the chat history was appalling. All kinds of explicit flirting, affectionate nicknames, and transfer records. The latest few entries are about the first milk tea of autumn. The girl posted a selfie holding milk tea, with the caption, "Thank you Ethan for the first milk tea of autumn. Love you." Ethan replied, "Good girl, glad you like it," followed by a kissing emoji. The time was that afternoon when he claimed to be working overtime at the company. I flipped through their chat history, photos, and videos, one by one. Every message was like a small knife, cutting repeatedly into my heart. That girl's name was Sophia, young, beautiful, and full of energy. The girl in the photo, snuggling sweetly next to Ethan, is the same person. Ironically, I recognized Sophia. A few months ago, she was a student who came to inquire about courses at the dance studio I opened. At the time, she was financially strapped and had a timid look in her eyes. Seeing that she had a talent for dancing, I even reduced part of her tuition. Unexpectedly, in the blink of an eye, she became the third party interfering in my marriage. Using the money Ethan gave her, she played the innocent student in front of me. I turned off my phone and put it back where it was. My heart was ice cold, with no more ripples. Anger, betrayal, disgust, all kinds of emotions intertwined, eventually settling into a near-numb calm. I remember when Ethan and I first got together. We were very poor back then, living in a rented small apartment. There was no heating in winter, so the two of us squeezed onto a small bed, wrapped tightly in blankets to keep each other warm. The happiest thing is going downstairs on the weekend to buy a bowl of hot dry noodles and sharing it. One bite for you and one bite for me. He would pick out all the few pieces of beef in it and give them to me. Back then, his eyes were clear and his smile was sincere. He said, "Olivia, when I have money in the future, I will definitely give you a good life." Later, he succeeded in his business venture, and we moved into a big house, living a materially abundant life. He did keep his promise. Designer handbags, fine jewelry, luxury sports cars. He compensated me with a lot. He just forgot that what I wanted most was never these things. What I want is consistent love and companionship, but I don't know when it started. The only topics between us are work, socializing, and investment. He no longer shares the trivial things in life with me, and no longer remembers our anniversaries. He is used to using material things to fill the emotional void, and I, too, have become accustomed to this seemingly blissful facade of marriage, numbing myself. Love has long since turned into habit in the daily grind. Even the habit is beginning to become precarious. Another weekend, Ethan put on a suit, tied his tie, and said that the company had an important dinner in the evening and needed to work overtime. He came over, intending to kiss my forehead as usual. I subconsciously turned my head to avoid it. His movement froze in midair. A trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," I said, looking at him, trying to keep my voice calm. "Be careful on the road." The surprise in his eyes turned to inquiry. He stared at me for a few seconds, and finally said nothing, turning to leave. The moment the door closed, I clearly heard him make a soft phone call. "Baby, I'm out. See you at the usual place in half an hour." His voice was gentle and tender, a tone I had never heard before. Overtime? Dinner party? It's all lies. He's going to meet that young girl for a date. It felt as if an invisible hand had gripped my heart tightly, and a sharp pain spread. I once thought I knew him well enough. I understand every subtle expression of his, every habitual action. But now, looking at his back, I feel nothing but strangeness. I can't see through him anymore. I didn't cry, and I wasn't hysterical. Years of dance training have taught me to control my emotions. I calmly walked to the bedroom, opened the closet, and looked at Ethan's expensive suits, shirts, and ties inside. These were all hand-picked and ironed by me for him. Looking at them now, I only feel immense irony. I took out my phone and called the cleaning lady. "Mary, please come over and pack up all of my husband's things." "All of them?" Mary sounded surprised on the other end of the phone. "Yes, all of them," I said firmly. "Leave nothing behind." After hanging up the phone, I sat in the empty living room, waiting. I knew that this 5-year marriage was coming to an end. I can no longer tolerate this deception and betrayal. I once gave up my family's inheritance for him, gave up my beloved dance career, and even lost our child in an accident, leaving me with a lifelong injury. I gave my all, but this is the ending I got in return. The night deepens. Heh. The sound of the lock turning came from the door. Ethan is back. He was stunned to see several large suitcases piled up in the living room. Olivia, what are you doing? I didn't answer, and took a small voice recorder from under the coffee table and pressed the play button. Intimate conversations between him and Sophia were coming from inside. Unbearable flirting, promises about the future, and even mockery of me. Olivia? She's old. Her figure is out of shape. How can she be as young and energetic as you? Don't worry, baby. When the time is right, I'll confront her. He looked at me in shock, his eyes filled with disbelief and a hint of panic. You're listening to me? His voice trembled, with a hint of accusation. Yes, I admitted calmly. Otherwise? Wait for your so-called right time to notify me that I've been kicked out. I stood up, walked in front of him, and slammed the evidence I had been collecting in front of him. One by one, that Valentine's Day video, screenshots of chat logs on his phone, that U-shaped hairpin, and even photos of him accompanying Sophia to the hospital for a prenatal checkup. I looked at him, enunciating each word clearly and resolutely. Ethan stared blankly at the evidence scattered on the ground. His lips moved a few times, but he couldn't make a sound. The color drained from his face, his eyes darted around, and he didn't dare to look at me. After a long while, he finally found his voice, his tone laced with a hint of embarrassment and evasion. Olivia, we need to talk. There's a misunderstanding here. Misunderstanding? I sneered. The evidence is conclusive. What excuses are you going to make now? He opened his mouth as if to say something, but in the end, he just lowered his head in dejection. He didn't dare to meet my eyes, didn't dare to face the irrefutable evidence of his betrayal. Suddenly, he seemed to remember something and abruptly raised his head. There's an urgent matter at the company. I have to go back and deal with it immediately. He didn't even dare to look at me again, grabbed his coat, and almost fled in panic. Watching his hurried and fleeing figure, I only felt a wave of desolation. This is the man I have loved for many years and given everything to. In the face of ironclad evidence, he didn't even offer a sincere apology, only escape and lies. I slumped on the sofa, my tense nerves finally relaxing. Tears welled up unexpectedly. I took out my phone and dialed Chloe's number. The moment the call connected, I couldn't hold back any longer and burst into tears. Chloe, he really cheated. We're over. Chloe was silent on the other end of the phone for a moment, then said in an unusually calm tone, Olivia, cry it out. Crying it out will make you feel better. She didn't advise me to forgive him, nor did she accuse Ethan. She just listened quietly, staying with me. After I calmed down a little, she said, Olivia, do you remember how much you gave up to be with him? Of course, I remember. Ethan's face turned pale instantly. I was born into wealth, and my family owns a vast business. My parents were always against me being with Ethan, who had nothing. For him, I severed ties with my family and gave up my readily available inheritance. To support his business venture, I took out all my savings. During my pregnancy, I fell on a slippery road in the rain while delivering an important document to him. I lost the child, and my leg was seriously injured, so I can no longer dance. Ethan, let's get divorced. That's the dance career I cherish as my life. Chloe's voice was filled with heartache. You've sacrificed so much for him, and he treats you like this. Olivia, he's not worth it. I know, I said, choking back tears. I know he's not worth it. So, leave him and start over. Chloe's tone was resolute. I will always be there for you. After hanging up the phone, I wiped away my tears. The last bit of hesitation and reluctance in my heart completely vanished. Yes, he's not worth it. This relationship was filled with inequality from the very beginning. I gave him everything, and he, after achieving success and fame, easily betrayed his vows. Silence spread through the air. The next day, I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau as agreed. I waited a long time at the entrance, but Ethan never showed up. Half an hour later, his secretary rushed over and handed me a brand new phone box. Madam, Ethan is tied up with an urgent meeting and can't get away. He asked me to give you this new phone, saying it's time for you to get a new one. The secretary's tone was respectful, but her eyes held a hint of subtle sympathy. I looked at the exquisite phone box and felt only immense irony. Even at this point, he was still using this kind of method to appease me and avoid reality. He thought a new phone could make up for his betrayal? Could it make me forget all the hurt? I didn't accept the box. You tell him I don't want the phone. I'll have the lawyer send him the divorce agreement. The sunlight is blinding, but I feel a sense of ease I've never felt before. This suffocating relationship is finally coming to an end. I thought things would end there. Unexpectedly, a few days later, Sophia actually found my dance studio. That day, I was teaching a class when she suddenly barged in, exquisitely made up and dressed in designer brands, looking completely different from the last time I saw her. She no longer had the timidity she once had, but instead had an arrogant look on her face. She walked straight up to me and said in a shrill voice, "Olivia, why are you holding on to Ethan? We are truly in love." I looked at her and found it somewhat amusing. True love? So that justifies destroying someone else's family with a clear conscience? Sophia was choked by my question, and then her eyes turned red, and she began to cry. I didn't mean to. Ethan said that he and you had no feelings for each other long ago, that you were old and boring. He said he would divorce you and marry me. While crying, she accused me of being vicious, attracting the attention of the studio's students and parents. I watched her performance coldly. The girl who used to act pitiful and seek sympathy in front of me has now become a sharp blade attacking me, and all of this was tacitly approved or even condoned by Ethan. He pushed me into such an embarrassing situation. Let me be the detestable, original spouse who obstructs true love in the eyes of others. Are you finished? I interrupted her sobbing. If you're done, please leave. You are not welcome here. Sophia seemed surprised by my calmness, paused for a moment, and then became even more agitated. What right do you have to kick me out? You old woman. If you weren't occupying the position, Ethan and I would have long ago. Before she could finish speaking, I had already picked up my phone. Hello, is this 110? There is someone here causing trouble and disturbing public order. I reported the address of the studio. Sophia's face changed, as if she didn't expect me to call the police. She tried to snatch my phone, but I dodged her nimbly. The people around us also started pointing and whispering. The police arrived quickly. After understanding the situation, they prepared to take Sophia away. Just then, Ethan appeared. Wasn't he supposed to be on a business trip? He frowned at the scene before him, quickly walked to my side, his tone carrying a hint of subtle tension. Olivia, what's going on? He deliberately ignored Sophia on the other side. Sophia saw Ethan as if she had seen a savior, and cried even harder with tears streaming down her face. Ethan, she called the police to arrest me. She said I was causing trouble. Ethan looked at me, then at the weeping Sophia, a trace of embarrassment on his face. He tried to mediate. Comrade police, this might be a misunderstanding. It's not a misunderstanding. I interrupted him, my tone icy. She openly insulted me and disrupted my workplace. The evidence is irrefutable. I demand that it be handled according to the law. I looked at the police and said firmly, I do not agree to mediation. I want Sophia to pay for her actions. I want her to know that not all mistakes can be easily forgiven. I want her to have a criminal record, to make her responsible for her choices. After speaking, I turned and left without a trace of nostalgia. The police looked at my firm attitude, then at the sobbing Sophia and the embarrassed Ethan, and finally acted according to the official procedure. Since the involved party does not agree to mediation, then come back to the police station with us to make a statement. Sophia looked at Ethan in disbelief, as if expecting him to stand up for her, but Ethan just frowned and avoided her gaze. He walked up to me, lowered his voice, and said with a hint of pleading, Olivia, could you? No, I interrupted him coldly. Ethan, you're the one who spoiled her like this. Now, it's time for her to face the consequences. I watched the panic and helplessness flash across his eyes, and there was no joy in my heart, only desolation. This man, for his own sake, can easily sacrifice anyone, including me, who he once loved deeply, and including Sophia, who he now claims to truly love. At the police station, I insisted on not settling. Sophia was eventually placed under administrative detention for causing trouble and has a criminal record. It was already late when I came out of the police station. Ethan had been waiting outside. When he saw me come out, he immediately came up to me. Olivia, we need to talk. I didn't look at him and walked straight ahead. He followed behind me. Let's go to the riverside, where we had our first date. My steps faltered, but I didn't refuse. Some things need to be made clear. The wind by the river is strong, making people feel a bit cold. We walked in silence, just like many years ago, but the mood is already worlds apart. Ethan stopped beside the bench where he'd proposed to me years ago. He looked at me, his gaze complex, His eyes fell on the faint scar on my wrist. That was from a few years ago when I accidentally cut myself when I was suffering from depression due to the loss of my child and dance career. At that time, he hugged me, crying and saying sorry, saying that he would definitely love me and protect me in the future. Olivia, he said, his voice hoarse. I know I was wrong. I'm an asshole, but, can you please listen to my explanation? Sophia, she looks a lot like you. A lot like you when we first met. Simple, passionate, full of hope for the future. I saw her, like seeing a shadow of the past. I was momentarily confused. Enough, I interrupted him, my voice trembling slightly with anger. Like you, Ethan? Is this how you're trying to excuse your disgusting betrayal? You're pushing all the blame onto a young girl, onto my so-called past? Have you ever thought that many people pursued me back then? And many of them were much better than you in terms of conditions? But I chose you and never wavered. Why can I be loyal, but you can't? I stared into his eyes and questioned him, word by word. Answer me, why? Ethan was rendered speechless by my questions, his face pale. He opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but in the end, he couldn't say anything. Seeing his cowardly and evasive appearance, the last trace of affection I had for him completely dissipated. I just felt disgusted. I raised my hand and slowly took off the wedding ring from my ring finger. The ring that once symbolized an eternal promise now looked to me like a cold shackle. I threw the ring forcefully into the surging river. Ethan, do you know what this relationship feels like to me now? I looked at him and forced a cold smile, like finding a 100 yuan bill covered in shit. It's a pity not to pick it up, but disgusting to pick it up. And now, I'm left with only disgust. Ethan's face instantly turned ashen. His eyes filled with anger and confusion. Olivia, how could you say that? He stepped forward, as if to grab me. I stepped back, avoiding his touch. We're done, Ethan. I looked at him, my eyes calm and resolute. Completely done. He seemed stung by my words, and became agitated. Who can guarantee they'll only love one person for their entire life? Olivia, can you say you won't fall in love with someone else in the future? His question was absurd and ridiculous. I looked at him and answered clearly and firmly. I can. At least, I can guarantee the most basic loyalty and respect in a relationship. But you can't even do that. The river breeze lifts my long hair, also blowing away the last heaviness in my heart. Ethan's almost collapsing roar came from behind, but I didn't look back. I know that from this moment on, he and I have nothing to do with each other anymore. The divorce agreement was signed quickly. Ethan didn't pester me anymore. Probably because my decisiveness had completely broken his heart. He gave me a considerable compensation, including a downtown apartment and a portion of company shares. This is what I deserve. It's what I earned with my youth, career, health, and even an unborn child. The day I got my divorce certificate, the sun was shining brightly. I walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, looked up at the azure sky, and breathed a long sigh of relief. Finally, I am free. I didn't immediately jump into a new life. I gave myself a long vacation and went to a strange seaside town. I spent my days watching the sea, taking walks, reading, and emptying my mind. The sea breeze blew away the haze in my heart and helped me regain inner peace. I reactivated my Instagram account and started sharing my travel photos and life insights. Unexpectedly, it attracted quite a few fans. Many people left messages saying they liked the calm and composed temperament in my photos, and the resilience and strength revealed in my writing. I started trying to share some simple dance tutorials online, and the response was also very good. My dance studio, with Chloe's help, has also gotten back on track. I recruited new teachers and offered more diverse courses. Looking at the students in the studio who love to dance, I seem to see my past self. That kind of persistence and love for dreams reignited the flame in my heart. As for Sophia, her ending wasn't good. A video of her causing trouble at my studio was taken and posted online. Although it was pixelated, some people still recognized her. Her identity as a mistress was exposed, and her fledgling online celebrity career suffered a devastating blow. It is said that she went to Ethan several more times afterwards, but was turned away. In the end, she left the city with her tail between her legs. As for Ethan, I heard he's not doing well. Having lost me, his good wife, he started making frequent mistakes in business. The company's internal morale was also unstable due to his chaotic personal life. He tried to win me back. He bought back the old apartment we used to live in, the place where we first struggled, full of memories. He wanted to evoke my nostalgia in this way, but I haven't been back even once. Later, I heard he had a car accident. It wasn't serious, but he was in the hospital for a while. He had his secretary contact me, hinting that he wanted me to visit him. I had Chloe tell him, let bygones be bygones. Let's each be well. Later, I heard that he often stayed alone in that empty old apartment, staring blankly at our old photos. He began to regret it, regretting his betrayal back then, regretting not cherishing me. He finally understood my determination, understood that he had lost not only a wife, but also the soulmate who once supported him and made him successful. His wealth and status seemed so empty and powerless after losing me. His pain, his regret, his madness, had nothing to do with me anymore. That day, I was teaching a class to the children in the studio. The sunlight streamed in through the huge French windows, casting dappled shadows on the floor. I was wearing my practice clothes, demonstrating the spinning motion. Out of the corner of my eye, I seemed to catch a glimpse of a familiar figure outside the window. He was standing across the street, watching me from afar. His eyes were complex, filled with loneliness, but also a hint of relief. He saw me immersed in dance, saw the radiance blooming on my face again. He probably finally understood that I had completely emerged from the shadows of the past and started a new life. He didn't come forward to disturb me, just stood silently for a while, and then turned and left. I withdrew my gaze, not allowing his appearance to affect my mood. The music started again. In the spacious and bright classroom, I spun and jumped to the rhythm. Every movement was full of power and freedom. I slightly raised the corners of my mouth, embracing the new future that belongs to me. After speaking, I stopped looking at him and turned to leave. I didn't refuse. I refused. It's Ethan. The sunlight shone on me, warm and bright.